Hi everyone, I'm Yvonne Weiger and welcome to the third topic in the Resilience series. So far we've looked at signs and symptoms of stress and how to manage workload to reduce stress. Today we'll be looking specifically at how you can remain calm when under pressure. We'll look to understand what pressure is as opposed to stress, what happens when we're feeling under pressure, and we'll also discuss some techniques to help you deal with that pressure. Some of these things you can do every day, which will give you a better ability to deal with pressure when it arises. But we'll also look at some techniques that you can use when you're really feeling up against it. So what is the difference between stress and pressure? Well, stress actually refers to a situation where there are too many demands and not enough resources. So this could be things like time, money, energy. And so in the context of your job, it might be that you're dealing with a really, really high volume of work, which means that you're required to work excessive hours on a regular basis. This can lead to sustained pressure, resulting in stress. Whereas pressure is a situation in which you perceive that something at stake is dependent on the outcome of your performance. So this could be a situation that's really important to you, and so you feel that the stakes are really high. So this could be a one-off deadline when you're feeling under pressure, a really important presentation, or maybe you've taken on a really important client and you're feeling under pressure to impress them by delivering a high quality piece of work to a short deadline. Now, of course, sometimes a bit of pressure is good. The pressure to meet a deadline, for example, often spurs action. However, when we're talking about pressure in this context, it means that it's something that's so important to you that it might become a worry for us. So we can liken that to the Euros when we went to a penalty shootout. The stakes are high, the need to perform well is high, and sadly, and as we know from the Euros, that kind of situation often leads to performance being impaired, even if they have the ability to be successful. So why is pressure a problem? What actually happens when we are under pressure? We can often overanalyze and experience overthinking. So we start to think about the mechanics of what we're doing, our ability to deliver instead of just doing. Overthinking can lead us to living anxiously. So we may play out scenarios and test out solutions time and time again, having thoughts around potential failure. If we're overthinking, this can lead to insomnia as we find it difficult to switch those thoughts off. And naturally, this may lead to fatigue during the day, as well as things like headaches and muscle aches and so on. And if we're overthinking and our mind is preoccupied, this makes it difficult to remain present as well. So we might be in a meeting thinking about what we haven't done. And perhaps when we're at home with our family, we may find it difficult to connect when we are worried about the pressures at work. We can become afraid of external judgment. So we might fear being judged negatively or fear failure. We might fear making mistakes. This is really common for perfectionists as they want to ensure that everything is right and they don't want to be seen as getting things wrong. This can lead to obsessive behaviour too, checking and double checking, triple checking even, or procrastination, as people don't want to take things forward until conditions are absolutely right. As we've mentioned before in our previous sessions, fight or flight is also common when we're under pressure. We experience things like palpitations, butterflies, hyperventilating, as the body recognises we're in a threatening situation. So this means we're responding from the more primitive area of our brain. And of course, if we're reacting from a place of fear, fight or flight, we're likely to respond in a way that we regret. So This also stops our prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for executive function, working in the way that it should. So that means we lose focus. Performance becomes impaired when our mind is preoccupied with worries, doubts, and fears instead of the task at hand. It also affects our decision making, affects our ability to think clearly. And when our thinking becomes impaired, we find it more difficult to make decisions and we're more likely to make poor decisions. So what's key here is at the point when you need to be able to perform well, the pressure actually produces conditions where we find it difficult to think clearly, we may find it difficult to concentrate, and it makes it more difficult to perform. So we need to find ways where you can respond in a much more positive way to pressure, so you can remain calm and be able to make better decisions and perform well. So here I'm going to share some helpful strategies for remaining calm. So the first one is around really managing our emotions. When we notice an emotional reaction or stress rising, then calming our limbic system will support us. So when our body recognizes stress, as I just said, our amygdala will recognize this and the stress hormone cortisol is released. Alongside this, that fight or flight response is activated. So that's when we experience the physiological response of heart racing, flushing, and so on. So this stops the frontal cortex from operating as it should, which makes decision making more difficult. So we need to stop us operating from the amygdala and calm our limbic system down so that we can become more rational in our thinking. A simple breathing technique can support this. So breathing deep and noticing the stomach move out, maybe 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out for even just a minute will really help. It'll just slow everything down for you. We can also use meditation. This focuses on the breath, so it's super easy, and it means that you don't need any skills or expertise for it because we're just breathing. So the aim is to relax and focus inwardly at our body, to notice our breath and focus on that. So it's completely normal and natural that thoughts are going to pop into your head. So don't worry that you're not doing it properly. That's entirely normal. And it's not the aim of meditation to get rid of our thoughts, but just to notice them and then let them go. So when you notice that your mind has wandered, just bring your attention back to your breath. So we're going to have a little practice so that you've got that technique ready for when you need it in future. So before we start, just make yourself comfortable. You can be sitting on a chair or on the floor if you prefer, but just ensure it's somewhere that you're going to feel comfortable for the next few minutes. So just move your eyes to soften your focus. And just take a couple of deep breaths in and out. Now notice how it feels as the air fills your lungs as you breathe in, feeling everything expand. And then notice everything reduce again as you breathe out. So just do that again, in and out, and in. And this time as you breathe out, I just want you to close your eyes and just appreciate that the busyness of the day has now just stopped for a moment. And this is your moment to be calm and focus on the now. I just want you to focus on the feeling of the weight of your body on the chair or floor, noticing the heaviness of your limbs as your body becomes more relaxed. And now notice your surroundings, any sounds, or the feeling of the air around you as you get comfortable in your space. And for a moment, notice how your body feels, perhaps a feeling of stillness, heaviness, sensations in different parts of the body. And now focus again on your breath. So breathe in and out. And just normally now, as you notice each breath in and out, and if your mind wanders, just let those thoughts go and bring your attention back to your breath. And if you struggle to keep your mind on your breath, just count your breaths. So in is 1, out is 2, in is 3, and so on until you reach 10, and then just start over again. But just continue for a minute or so, just focusing on your own now. So stay with this feeling of focus on your breath, rising and falling sensation, and just slowly bring your attention back to your body. So maybe the feeling of your body against the chair, the feeling of the floor beneath your feet, and now any sounds. And now notice how calm you feel and how this moment to yourself is self-care and kindness and important for your well-being. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So how did that feel? Hopefully you're now feeling very relaxed and calm, and certainly more calm than you were a few minutes ago. I think what's quite clear here is that actually you don't need long to be able to just change how you're feeling. So you can move from that state of feeling under pressure or feeling a little bit frantic to feeling calm in just a short while. So it's a really good technique to use. So this really is about the pause and taking time for ourselves. So getting off that roller coaster of busyness and just taking a moment. So it could just be a few minutes, or you can take longer depending on what you need. But as I said, I hope it's reassuring that when you're feeling under pressure, then just a few minutes may be enough to slow down your limbic system to then allow you to be able to focus on that task ahead. Now, some people do struggle with self-meditation. If this is you, then do also try out some guided meditations to see if these work for you. There are lots of apps available, such as Calm and Headspace, that you can use. A benefit of meditation is that it distracts the conscious mind. So when your mind is running wild, thinking about all the things that you have to do, or telling yourself that you're not going to possibly achieve what you need to, meditation will quieten that conscious mind down. Additionally, if you use a good meditation app, it will also include lots of positive statements such as "you are calm and in control" or "you are good enough," which will be accessed by your unconscious mind, and that will help create those new positive neural pathways for you, which means that you will begin to believe that you are calm and that you are good enough at what you're doing. The other thing that we can do to help calm everything down is to use an anchor. So an anchor refers to the process of associating an emotional or internal response with some external trigger. So this could be when you hear a piece of music and it reminds you of a time years before, and suddenly you recall exactly how you felt at that time. It could be the smell of freshly cut grass that reminds you of some holidays at grandparents and how happy you felt. So anchoring takes this theory, so you can produce a desired emotional or internal response when you need it. So you then need to remember a time when you had a particular feeling, and then we make that experience stronger and the feeling stronger. But you need something to attach it to. So like the music or smell, but because those things aren't easily accessible, what we normally do is use our fingers. So we might hold two fingers together. So I'd like you to think of a trigger that you can anchor your memory and feeling to. So perhaps press two fingers together. Then I'll ask you to recall a time when you were feeling really calm. Now, when you're thinking about that feeling, it doesn't have to be associated with work. It can be any time. Just think of it like a resource. So if you happen to be good at writing essays, then the likelihood is you're going to also be good at writing reports. In exactly the same way, if you are calm in one situation, you can take that as a resource and use it in another. So you might want to think about maybe a time when you were on holiday and feeling really relaxed, or perhaps looking out over water, or just being calm and relaxed at home. The idea here is that if we can then associate that feeling with our trigger, so our pressing our two fingers together, that means that when you need to access that feeling of calm, you can access that really easily. So we're going to have a little practice now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to remember a time when you were feeling really calm. I want you to bring that to mind. And then before that, as that feeling grows and before it peaks, I want you to hold your two fingers together so that feeling becomes associated with your pressing of the two fingers. Before that feeling starts to disappear, then release your fingers, because what we want to do is for your trigger to be associated with the feeling at its maximum. So maximum calmness here. And then we'll have a little practice again. And then what I want you to do is then press your two fingers together, and hopefully you'll be feeling really calm. You'll be able to access that. So we'll have a little practice now. So I'd like you to remember a time when you were feeling really, really calm. So I want you to see now what you saw then. So really take in the sights around you. Perhaps there are people there, perhaps not. I just want you to take in the sights and see now what you saw then. And now I want you to hear now what you heard then. Perhaps the sounds of people, perhaps the sounds of nature, whatever it is. Just really take in those sounds that you heard then when you were feeling really calm. And now take in any smells and tastes that were there too. And now I just want you to take in that strong feeling of calmness and relaxation. Just knowing that you're really comfortable as you are, and knowing that you can achieve anything because you are in a calm and relaxed state, and then have the ability to think really, really clearly. And what we'll do now is just make that feeling stronger. I want you to take in those sights, make the picture bigger and brighter. Really seeing that in high definition now. So really taking into account the sights around you. Really taking in the sounds. Really hearing that with crisp clarity now. As that feeling grows, really take on that feeling of calmness. Strong relaxation, feeling so relaxed and so comfortable within, knowing that you have the sound clarity of mind to deal with anything in a calm manner. And press those fingers together when that feeling grows, that real strong feeling of calm, knowing that you can do anything when you put your mind to it, because your mind is clear and calm. Before that feeling starts to disappear, let go of your fingers. And now we're going to try it again very quickly. So I want you to remember a time when you're feeling really calm. I want you to see now what you saw then, really taking in the sights around you. I want you to hear now what you heard then, any sounds. of people, maybe not to people, maybe with nature. As you're taking that in, I want you to remember any smells and tastes. And now taking that feeling of real calmness and relaxation. And now let that grow, really seeing now that picture in high definition, really taking in everything around you. It's much bigger and brighter. Make any sounds much louder and crisper. And really, really take in that feeling now of absolute calm and relaxation. Pressing your anchor when you're ready. Do. And as that feeling grows, you know that you're so calm and relaxed. You know that that feeling you can access at any time, knowing that when you're in this wonderful, calm mindset, that it will help you with your clarity of thinking and that you can achieve anything that you want to. And just let that go. Now I just want you to test your trigger now. So press your fingers together and just see whether you can access that calm state now. So the more you practice that, the more associated that feeling will become with your trigger. And then it means that when you need to access it, then you can quite easily. So practice it, make sure that feeling becomes really strong, and then you'll be able to access it really easily. Now, it might sound a little bit of a strange thing to do, but actually it's used really widely in sport, not necessarily for a feeling of calm, probably more so for confidence. So you can actually use that technique for a range of emotions. But the theory behind it is that actually, when we need to perform, we can't just rely on our ability. We also need to rely on our mindset and our emotional state. So if we can create that for ourselves, we are much more likely to perform better. So that's just something that you can try out. The other thing that we need to be thinking about is our mindset and having a positive mindset. So our mindset does matter. It's been shown that our mindset is a crucial factor when it comes to what we achieve, our health, our happiness, and even how long we live. So those with a positive mindset fare much better. So being stuck in a cycle of overthinking, negative thinking is going to be harmful to all of these things. So our mindset, our thoughts, feelings, ideas and beliefs, what we've learned and aspirations all shape the brain. So our brain is like a muscle. So when we learn or experience something, it will create pathways. Ideally, we want to create pathways which are positive for us, to give us the ability to cope under pressure, to deal with stress effectively and have a positive outlook on life. So having a positive or growth mindset does not necessarily mean us being happy all the time or living a life of rainbows and unicorns. It provides a critical role in how we deal with life's challenges. So how we approach difficult situations, how we solve problems, and how we bounce back from hardship. So how we feel about pressure is also critical to enabling us to focus and get results. Once we feel a bit calmer through managing our limbic system, we need to frame the experience more positively. Our beliefs are critical to our mindset. So these are formed via our upbringing, our experience and so on, and they become our reference points. So if as a child you were told you were rubbish at drawing, for example, you may take this forward as an adult, believing that you've got no artistic talent, and you may therefore as a result avoid activities which involve creativity. This is also evidenced by the placebo effect. So it's known that if somebody takes medication believing it's good for them, they will feel the benefit, even when there's no clinical evidence behind it. It's also why that when somebody purchases a £15 bottle of wine is over an £8 bottle, they may believe it tastes better as their beliefs have shaped their expectation. So if we expect to feel angry, stressed, upset, etc., we are much more likely to feel that way. If we adopt a positive thoughts instead, we will fare better. So when the stakes are high, we need to believe that we are going through a positive experience and that we are up to the task ahead. When we feel meaning in what we do, we are also much more likely to put up with the bad stuff. Remaining focused on the outcome to what you want to achieve will ensure the pressure feels worthwhile. So keeping a positive outlook about the final outcome will help you through. It's why when people climb Everest, it's why they keep going, despite it being extremely painful. And for you, when you're feeling under pressure, it's normally because you're doing something important to you. So use this as your focus to drive you. So this will enable you to think more clearly and approach the task with rational thinking rather than from an emotional response, which will only cloud your thinking. And of course, it's not forever. Reminding yourself it's only temporary will also help you get through it. Getting used to a level of discomfort may also be really helpful. If we experience and get used to the pressure, it becomes much easier. So leaning into the pressure and embracing it, because it will take you towards your outcome, will help. It will also get you out of your comfort zone and mean that in future that your level of comfort zone will be expanded, and therefore you'll be used to a higher level of pressure. So every time we experience it, we get used to a little bit more. And also imagining your future once you have successfully got through the situation will help too. So use visualization to support you. Imagine yourself being in control of your workload, feeling calm or happy, feeling well. Imagine the success, how you will feel, or imagine yourself celebrating. It helps us gain perspective that this situation is only a moment in time and one day this will pass, along with the feeling of pressure. And if we still need help with this, we can use affirmations. These again help shape the neural pathways, meaning we can use affirmations to shape and change our beliefs. So change those negative statements we might say to ourselves to more positive statements. So instead of "I can't do this," "I can do this." "I'm petrified, I won't succeed," to "This is important to me and I will succeed." We also need to get in the zone. So once we focus on getting our limbic system right and getting into the right emotional state, and also ensuring that we have positive thinking, we also need to ensure that we create the optimum conditions to actually respond to the pressure and get the job done. So surround yourself with the right people. So ideally, we want to surround ourselves with people who are supportive and who spur you on. So hopefully these people are in your team or maybe your peers, but surrounding yourself with people who can help you with your positive mindset, who can say to you, "You're great at this, you'll smash this," rather than people who will perhaps collude with you in terms of saying, "Oh, this is a terrible job that's never going to get done," because that really will not help you. So surround yourself with positive people will really, really help. Break those demands into manageable tasks. So there's a saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So break those demands into really tiny tasks, make them as small as possible. And planning is key here. So if you have an enormous task that needs to be done, it's going to make you feel bad. You're not going to want to approach it. Whereas if you are only thinking about a 10-minute task ahead, and that 10 minutes will help you knock one task off the much bigger task ahead, then that's much more helpful, because then you could just slowly plod away and work towards that much bigger task. I also talk a lot about focus. Focusing on one task at a time is really, really important. If we try and spread our time over lots and lots of tasks, what we find is that we're not really making progress in any one area. If we focus our time on one bigger task and all of the multitude of little tasks are taking us towards that, we are much likely to make real progress, and that makes us feel better. So focusing on one task at a time and then ticking that off will help you succeed. And I've said it before, don't multitask. Multitask actually makes us far less effective. And by multitasking, I mean either literally doing two things at once. So it might be you're writing an email and you're also on the phone at the same time. Or it also can mean switching from one task to another in quick succession. So it could be that you're writing a report and then suddenly an email pops in. So then suddenly your attention turns to that email, you deal with that email, and then you switch back to your report. Actually, if we work in that way, we become far less effective. And there's evidence to suggest we become 40% less effective because our mind is having to take time to switch between those two tasks. Additionally, it's been shown that it can take 26 minutes for somebody to fully reintegrate into a task after a disruption. So this shows how multitasking can actually really negatively affect productivity, but it also explains why we only need a few interruptions in our day for this to massively impact upon the ability to deliver. So it adds weight to why you may need protected time. So maybe blocking out some time in your day and putting a do not disturb sign on your door, or maybe working from home so that you have fewer distractions. Because if you have lots of people interrupting you and asking you questions, you're not going to get your job done very quickly. And also, practice makes perfect. Actually, the more you practice in terms of getting yourself into the right mindset, remaining calm, but also dealing with pressure on a more regular basis, so we get used to a bit of pressure, means that we can deal with these things much more easily moving forward. However, there's an educator who actually phrases this much better. It's not practice makes perfect. What she says is practice when under pressure with focus and the end goal in sight is what makes us perfect. So try it out, use these hints and tips to support you. And the more you do it, the more that you'll get into the right mindset and so that you can remain calm. And of course, when we remain calm, we're much more likely to deliver successfully.